Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how we can configure OSPF on two different platforms. R1 and R2 are VMX routers from Juniper. R3 is a Cisco router, and because OSPF is a standard protocol, so we are not going to see something weird in configuration because all of them know what OSPF is. The configuration is pretty the same with some minor syntax changes, of course, on different platforms, and both of them should be able to communicate to each other. This is not like EIGRP, for example, which is a Cisco proprietary protocol, or something which is Juniper proprietary. OSPF is the standard protocol. Other than syntax, there should be no difference in whatever we are doing here. So let's start everything. I have not even configured the interfaces. I'm going to configure the interfaces here, and I'm going to show you quite simple configuration. Let's start from Cisco device. Cisco device is going to be very familiar to all of you, so I'm going to say show IP interface brief. So let's say do show IP interface brief. Here we are typing with another language, and you can see that all the interfaces are shut down. What I'm going to have is Ethernet 00 and 01. 00 is connected to R1. So I'm going to say interface range E00 to 1, no shut. So I'm going to save this. On the other hand, Juniper devices have all the interfaces up. So if I just go to a Juniper device and say run show interface terse, you can see that all the interfaces are up, and some of the interfaces have received some IP addresses by default. And I have not configured anything on GE000, and this is this one, and GE001, which is connected to the other router. I'm going to do the configuration. So you know that CDP is not understood by Juniper, and LLDP is not configured by default on Cisco routers. So what I'm going to do is to start configuration. Interface E00. IP address is going to be, let me see which computer. This is connected to R1. So I'm going to say IP address is 10.10.13.3. So, and interface E01 is going to have IP address of let's say 23.3. So that's the configuration, and I'm going to have a loopback interface as well. I don't have to, I'm just going to have. I'm going to say IP address is going to be 3333 255 255 255 255. And I can of course say this is a point-to-point interface, but because this is 32-bit, so that's not going to make any changes. So when we configure OSPF on a Cisco router or on any type of router, if you have a loopback interface, router ID is going to be selected based on the IP address of the highest IP address of the loopback interfaces that you have. I have only one loopback interface, so if I do not configure router ID, so this is going to be selected as router ID, and it is going to be assigned to OSPF process. If I do not have any loopback interface, then highest IP address of any physical interface on the router is going to be selected as the router ID. But if I want to configure router ID manually, let's say for example I'm going to say router OSPF1 and I'm going to say router ID, I can configure anything here. It doesn't have to be configured on the router as an IP address. I can configure, let's say, 13.13.13.13. There is no IP address present with this IP on, there is no interface present with this IP address on this router, but I can just do it. But most of the time I prefer to use the IP address of a loopback interface, and I hard-code that. The reason that I hard-code it is if I have another loopback interface or another physical interface with higher IP address, I don't want OSPF to choose that IP address as the process ID whenever it just goes down and come up. So I just want to make sure that this is going to be always the same. And on Cisco routers, you know that you can configure interfaces using network command, or you can go to interface level and configure OSPF on that. Cisco says go to interfaces and configure that. OSPF v3 makes you do that on the interface level, but this is OSPF version 2. So what I'm going to do is to go with simpler configuration. I'm going to have all the interfaces in area 0. Most likely if you have multiple areas you're not going to do this, but I'm going to do this very simple. So 00000000, I'm going to say everything is in area 0, and that's all the configuration that we need on Cisco router. Okay, let's go to a Juniper router. So this is here. First of all, I want to configure GE00, which is connected to R3. So I'm going to say, right now you can see that I am in edit mode or configure mode. So I'm going to say set interface, let's say family, let's say interface GE, set interface GE-0/0/0 unit 0. I can type unit 0 or just go with .0. I'm going to say family is going to be iNet, which is IPv4. And I'm going to say the address is going to be 10.10.13.1/24. And that's it, nothing more than that. I can hit enter. And the other one is going to be GE0001.0, which is unit 0, and this one is going to be 12.1. And then I'm going to commit this, so now I have an IP address here. So if I just say run ping 10.10.13.3, the ping goes through without any problem. Now let's configure OSPF here. The first thing that I want to do, again, I can have a loopback interface. Let's do that. I'm going to say set interface, let's say loopback 0.0, family is this, and I'm going to say IP address is 1.1.1, like this. Okay, let's go for the OSPF configuration. Again, this is the same as Cisco. If you do not configure router ID is going to be selected based on the highest IP address of a loopback interface. If there is no loopback interface, highest IP address of a physical interface. But again, you can hard code that. Again, hard coding is a better option for me. So I'm going to say set routing option or routing option, the router ID. So router ID is going to be 1111, and I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to configure interfaces. Configuring interfaces is going to be like this. So I would say set protocols. And for protocols, I can configure a lot of different types of protocols. As you can see, the list is very long, but I'm going to select normal OSPF. You have OSPF v3 as well here, but normal OSPF is going to be what I really want to, because if you have OSPF v3, you should know that OSPF v3 is not compatible with OSPF. So you cannot configure one side as OSPF v3, the other side as OSPF router. So I'm going to say area is going to be area 0. Again, I can type area 0 or I can type area 0000. Both of them are the same. I'm going to go with this syntax, but again, it is going to change it to 0000. And which interfaces are going to be part of OSPF? So I'm going to say interface is going to be GE-0/0/0.0. And this is going to be part of OSPF. Also, GE001.0 is going to be part of this, and all of them are in the same area. Now, because area is the same, and this is going to, of course, default to NBMA interface, non-broadcast multi-access interface. So the hello and let's say dead interval are going to be 10 and 40, the same as Cisco. And now what I'm going to say is commit. Okay, now that I have committed this, I need to do the same thing on here. You can see that we have a neighborship on Cisco. Juniper does not have the logs enabled by default, but Cisco has, so you can see that. But on Juniper, I'm going to show you some commands. Let's configure router 2 as well, because this is going to be very simple. So I'm going to say set interface GE0/0/0.0 family inet address is going to be 10.10.23.2/24, and the other one is going to be 12.2, so that would be this. And I'm going to say loopback interface is going to be 2222, so I'm going to configure this as 2. And let's do this as loopback 0, LO0.0. And I forgot to add loopback 0 to protocols here, so let's do that. I'm going to say loopback 0 is going to be part of this, so I'm going to commit that. So let's go back to here. I'm going to say set routing options. For router ID, I'm going to use 2222, and then I'm going to say set protocols OSPF area 0, or I can say 0000. Both of them are the same. Interface is going to be GE000.0. And I'm going to say hit enter. Also 1, also loopback 0. Okay, this is almost everything that I want to have. I can just say loopback 0 is passive. So for this, what I need to do is to add a passive to the end of the command. So that's going to make this passive. I should do the same thing on router 3, which is here, a Cisco router. On a Cisco router, what you do is you go to router OSPF, the process ID, and you are going to say passive interface loopback 0, and that's all. On Cisco router, what you do is you use, on Juniper router, what you do is set protocol OSPF area 000, and then the interface, and then you say passive. So I'm going to do this. Also, if you want to change the interface type, you can say interface type, and after that you can see point to point is P2P, point to multi-point is P2MP, and NBMA, which is the default, is this. But what I'm going to do is to keep this as NBMA. In my case, it doesn't really matter. Of course, the best design choice is to use point to point, because you can see that they are in different subnets, so we do not really want to have NBMA, because this is going to add an LSA type 2, which we do not really need in this type of a network. So let's go back to the configuration. So what we have done so far is this. Let's go for some verification command. On Cisco routers, verification is quite familiar. Show IP OSPF interface brief. It says that we have these interfaces. You can see that on Ethernet 00 I have this neighbor. On Ethernet 01 I don't have this neighbor. So what I'm going to do is to go to router 2 and see what the problem might be. So let me see. Show IP interface brief. Here we have 10.10.23.3. So if I try to ping 10.10.23.2, seems that there is an IP address configuration problem. So on router 2, so what we have is GE000, which is configured as this. And what I have not done on router 2 is committing. So if I say commit check, it says whether there is a problem with your configuration. It says that there is no problem, so I'm going to go with commit. So committing this is going to say that this neighbor has come up. So if I just go back to show IP OSPF interface brief, now you can see that I have neighbors on both of these. On Cisco router, you can say show IP OSPF neighbor, and it's going to give you information, a brief information about your neighbors, and of course the state that you have, and whether you are DR, BDR, in case you are on an NBMA network. On Cisco router, of course, you can just go with show IP OSPF database, which is going to give you full information about the LSAs that you have, because all of the routers are in the same area. What I have is only LSA type 1 and type 2. And of course, if I just change it to point-to-point interfaces, then what I'm going to receive is only type 1. And also I could say show IP route, and it's going to show me almost every route that I have and the reachability for each one of them. You can see that I have multiple paths to get to the destination sometimes. So let's go back to router 2. I'm going to show you some verification commands here. The verification commands is going to be like this: show OSPF. We do not have IP OSPF. Let me exit this because I am in edit mode, so I'm going to go to operation mode. So I'm going to say show OSPF neighbor. You can see that I have 2 neighbors. The information is pretty the same. The state is like this, and the priority, and of course the timers here. The timers should not go below 30 because we have hello messages every 10 seconds, and the dead timer is 40. So the timers should not go below 30. If it goes below 30, this means that we are missing a hello or something. The other thing that we have is details about a neighbor. So of course I can say 10, 10, 12, 1. So I'm going to have some detailed information about that. It's going to give me some more information about this specific neighbor. For example, when was the neighbor shipped up, when, and how is this, in case we are on an NBMA network. Show OSPF, let's say, what is it, overview, I guess. Yes, this is the command. This is going to give us some information about ourselves. So it says that the router ID is this, the area is this, and the full SPF run are 4 times. So we can just see some information about this. So what's more I can say, I can have more information about this if I go with extensive keyword, and you can see it gives us a little more than what we have. Not so much, of course. I don't know why this command is here. So the other thing is show OSPF interfaces, and I guess there is a brief keyword here. So this is exactly what we have as show OSPF v3 interface brief or show IP OSPF interface brief on Cisco. Also, we can have show OSPF, and this one is interesting. So you can see that we have show OSPF route and show route. So you see on show OSPF route, this is going to tell us what routes are going to be installed in routing table. So you can see that all of the routes are intra area. This means that we do not have any inter area route from other areas. And if I just say show route, you can see that this is the routing table. And also you can say show route, let's see here, show route summary, and if show route, yes, summary, I guess. So you see that it says how many routes we have here and how we have received these routes. For example, we have 5 routes from OSPF. And also show OSPF database. Show OSPF database is going to show OSPF database, sorry. Show OSPF database, hit enter. You can see that we have type 1 and type 2 networks. And you can see the information is pretty much similar to what we have on Cisco router. So this is just a very brief introduction to the configuration on two different platforms, and because this is a standard routing protocol, so we will not have a problem creating adjacency between routers from different platforms. That's almost everything, and see you in the next video.